Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast. And we've got a returning guest today, Michael Konnert, who actually, let me think, he was back on our, in one of our earlier episodes, which was episode 78, back in May 2020. It's funny how I picked that number and that date out. So he's the CEO and founder of Vizsla Silver Corp, a junior mining company exploring, developing and acquire precious and base metal assets in Mexico. Michael's a young entrepreneur and at the helm of obviously Vizsla Silver, and has achieved a lot obviously in a short space of time. So I'm going to get him to explain his journey in a little bit more detail in a few minutes. And obviously a lot of things have happened since we last spoke, which is just over a year ago, when I suppose COVID just was starting to emerge. So let's welcome Michael to the podcast. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing very well, Rob. Thank you very much for having me again. It was kind of fun catching up right before here and just reflecting on all the things that have changed over the last year and a few months here since we last spoke.
Yeah, certainly. So for those that haven't or don't know you, which I'm sure most of the people do, please go back and visit that episode, which was back in May 2020. But for those that are listening to Michael for the first time, appreciate if you can give us a quick overview of your background, so the audience knows a little bit more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background, I come from a commerce business background here into the mining space. So a little different than, the technical side with geology and engineering being the more kind of, typical technical routes to the CEO role. But I started back in 2010, really, outside, when I left business school and started working in the kind of the business side of the industry with a few different companies, including Pretium Resources, which is a large gold producer here in BC. And I quickly kind of was drawn to the capital market side and the fact that you can access a broad pool of risk capital for exploration, development, some of these aspects of the business that are typically quite risky. And as you de-risk and move from early stage exploration or kind of the unknown into more of the known and the de-risk, you create a lot of value for shareholders. And when I really started to understand that, I was just kind of like moth to a flame there. It was really, really exciting for me. And so I spent a number of years kind of trying to acquire as much knowledge and information as I could from mentors and really great people and, working in the industry. And in 2017 or 2016, my business partner, Craig Perry, and we started a cobalt company right when the battery metals theme was kicking off quite well. And we ended up, putting that company together and, in less than 12 months, selling it for about $12 million to, an Australian listed company. And that was it was a very great experience working with Craig Perry. And so we decided to work on a couple of other things together, which has now grown into Inventa Capital, which is our larger capital markets group that, we have a number of people across the expertise spectrum there working with us here. But our major focus right now in our main company, of course, is Vizsla Silver. Vizsla Silver, back in 2018, I led the IPO of the company, and 2019 we entered into agreements to purchase and consolidate an entire district in Sinaloa, Mexico. And this was quite a risky, as I was saying before, kind of one of those points on the value curve where you can create a lot of shareholder value. And so we consolidated and unlocked an entire district. And over the last 20 months since we signed that agreement, we've made several large high-grade silver discoveries there, kind of globally significant, we believe, silver discoveries. We've raised over $110 million for the company. Just this last month, we've exercised both the options. So we're on the path to owning this district 100%, which includes an operating mill and production facility. So, in less than 2 years, Visla's gone from, exploration, hope, and a prayer to rapidly becoming, silver's next big growth story out of Mexico. And it's, it's 100% due to the team that we have. We have an excellent team, and some of the best geologists, engineers, and people involved in the company. So it's it's a really exciting time to be a part of something like this, which is a big silver discovery.
Yeah. Obviously, since we last spoke, obviously a lot of things have happened, and during that time there was obviously the start of COVID, and as we mentioned before we came on air, a lot of things have changed. So I just wondered if you can give us a bit more in-depth view of what has happened since May 2020, and also you also obviously mentioned that you strengthened your team as well, and like you said, you've got a good core, strong geologists. So I just wondered if you can elaborate on that as well.
Yeah, so we it's funny because we had to shut down for COVID, and we had just basically started drilling. We had 2 rigs on the property, and we we're kind of ramping up drilling and making some smaller discoveries, things that were quite interesting to us, but we hadn't really made that big inflection point discovery yet. And so we shut down for COVID, and we looked at that as an opportunity, and the opportunity was to spend time thinking about what we were doing in the district, spend time thinking about where the next big discovery will come from. And then we actually made that discovery on the second and then the 7th hole, drilling at Napoleon, coming back from COVID. Probably we were drilling that hole when we last spoke, and then the news came out in June and July of last year. And then since then we've built the team up even more. We have now a core team of senior geologists here in Canada and Mexico, and we have many people down at the project. There's three teams: drilling, logging, and ground exploration, prospecting. And it's showing us that this is actually a very large district. This is unique in the sense that it's a district that I think has legs to be something very, very significant on a global scale. So we're very excited about that. Additionally, we've raised a significant amount of capital that'll keep us very well funded. So we raised just recently another $74 million and brought in some excellent shareholders. And through that, we're able to build our team even more. And we have an excellent engineering group that's starting here, but we've also brought on Mike Pettingale recently, who's was a lead analyst from Canaccord, and his top pick was actually Vizsla. He was covering Vizsla, and he approached us and wanted to join and be part of the team. And so it was exactly what we were looking for. And so we're even growing out our kind of capital markets aspect as well too. So the team is absolutely been growing and strengthening, and it's a result of kind of the quality of the project that we're working on.
Yeah. Can you give us some more details around the raise and where you got the funds from?
Yeah. So we've done, in the life of the company, we've done, it's 5 financings. So as a public company, the first one was very small. It was $800,000 on our IPO from Haywood in September of 2018. And subsequent to that, we raised $6 million. And then after that, we raised $4.6 million. And then our big financing came, last summer after we made the discovery. We raised $30 million with Eric Sprott, Franklin Templeton, and Force Sale. So some very strong technical, shareholders there. And then this last financing, we raised $74 million. And over that period of time, over the last 12 months, a lot of that capital has actually come from one source here, which is our chairman, Craig Perry. So Craig's put in over $6 million of his own money. In the last financing, I think he put just about $5 million, or just over between 4.5 and 5 million into the placement. So insiders are buying the stock, and they're buying the stock at close to all-time highs, which gives you kind of an indication of our conviction of the the success that we see here. And then in addition to that, we had a number of very strong technical funds, funds that maybe make 1 or 2 investments a year come into this last financing. And, we're very pleased to welcome, Warren Irwin and a number of other kind of very strong shareholders, but also our existing shareholders adding to their positions as well too, with the conviction that, this could be, the next big silver growth story.
Yeah, certainly. You've been referred to in the sort of mining industry as the mining millennial. How does your background and vision and career journey contribute to changing realities, attitudes, and trends in the industry?
Yeah, it's a good question. I suppose I take it, there's kind of a funny juxtaposition here, I suppose, where millennials, I guess, are supposed to have this, maybe a kind of a predilection towards ESG or something like that. But what I've noticed is that mining's been doing ESG before it was called ESG. So I don't know if I'm taking anything that's necessarily new as kind of a millennial, but what I've been able to do is look at people that are my mentors, like Craig Perry and Simon Smirlick, and some of the the leading people in the industry that have been doing all these great things for the last several decades, and kind of take that and learn from it all. So it's helpful for me to be kind of a more of an observer, and then trying to incorporate what I see as some of the best aspects of the the previous generations, let's say, into what we do. And so there's a few things that we really I think are quite important with Vizsla, and that's treating our communities as if they were our own communities, working with our team, treating them as owners, making sure that they have exposure through options and exposure to the story, make sure they're owners of what we're doing, and that's maybe something that I incorporate, and that's not necessarily something I would say maybe as a millennial. It's just something that I've experienced when I've worked for other companies, that certainly a lot more motivating when you feel like you're an owner of the company.
Yeah, I understand that. Myself being in recruitment and having my own company as well, you just feel, you feel a bit more passionate in order to do well. And yeah, there's other attributes that follows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Can you tell us more about the role Canadian companies play in Mexico and Central America, and how they're benefiting to the sort of local communities, and how this is obviously important to investors?
Yeah, well, most of the mineral exploration that's being done in Mexico is done by Canadian companies, certainly. Canadians, I guess, worldwide are like Australians as well too. It's I guess those are the big natural resource industries in these countries, and so we export our expertise across the world, and so in Mexico, the way that I see kind of the influence and the benefit to international companies, Canadian companies working in Mexico, is that we bring our expertise to help make discoveries, and those discoveries create a lot of value for communities and the economies, the local economies there. And the best example of that is Vizsla. When we first went down to Vizsla, our project Panuco there, the towns were beautiful towns, but what we've seen happen over the last 2 years or so here is that we see the direct impact of the investment that we're making in the community. So everybody basically that we could employ, we've employed from the local area. So it's over 100 people as helpers, driller helpers, geologists. Even there's been a number of local guys that have gone off and gone to school and then come back as and we've hired them as geologists. So there's a lot of kind of community pride and ownership there in that local area, which is awesome. I love seeing that. But the coolest thing that I've seen is over the years, there's a lot more motorcycles and scooters than the community looks like there's more kind of investment into that. And that's the wonderful thing about any type of business as well too, is that if you make it, if there's the ability to increase the funding in an area, I think it makes people happier. It makes people have a bit more purpose, and creates a better environment for the most part. And so, it's been great to see, what a bit of mineral exploration and discovery can do for an area. Now, what I'm really excited about is when this really becomes a large scale mine, the communities will be able to have the opportunity to benefit from that, because we're there as their guests. It's their community first, and but what we can offer, of course, is training and safety, and there's a number of significant benefits for the people that work in the mining industry, and then the people that benefit from the mining industry as well too. So I think it's a great way to create mineral exploration development is a great way to create improved communities and safety and things like that in Mexico and Central America. And of course, that all comes down to the capital markets, in Canada, and those capital markets working well, because if we can't get these companies funded, then we can't do the exploration, we can't make the discovery. So it's a whole value chain.
Yeah. Was the region an existing mining town, or has it just been sort of more recent that mining investment has come to the region?
Well, it's recent that I would say that there's been significant investment, but this town was discovered, or this area was discovered in 1500s by the Spanish. So it's been for at least 4 centuries, more than 4 centuries. It's been a mining area in town, so people have been mining there, but I think this is the first time, well, it is the first time that there's been kind of broad scale exploration and a large work program going here. We have 10 rigs turning on the property, and hundreds of people kind of running through the hills and prospecting and taking samples and things like that. So it's a very big operation. It's something that you would see out of a major mining company. So this is the first time that that's happened in the area.
Yeah. You recently announced a spin-off company, Vizsla Copper. Can you tell us a little bit more about Visla Copper's projects and walk us through the stages of acquisition and development? And also, will shareholders of Vizsla Silver become shareholders of Vizsla Copper as well?
Yeah, so shareholders of Vizsla Silver will become shareholders of Visla Copper on a 1 to 3 share. So 1/3 of a share for every share of Vizsla Silver that you own will be a Visla Copper share. So that will happen. That'll probably happen in the coming weeks or so. That'll be finalized. So the idea basically is that actually when we started Vizsla Silver, it was actually called Vizsla Resources, and we were looking at silver, copper, gold as big projects to acquire. And so we had an interest in copper, and we had some copper projects in the company, and we actually had one Blueberry that was sitting in the company without any attention or any kind of exposure, and shareholders weren't getting any exposure to that. So we decided, we're shareholders as well. Why don't we try to create some value here and show 2 things, that we're trying to create value for shareholders, but also that Vizsla Silver is our main focus. We don't need to confuse the message with other projects in the company. So we decided to spin that out, and that'll happen here shortly. Basically, we've been working on a number of other things in Vizsla Silver. The financing, exercising, accelerating the options. It's been a very busy summer, and originally I think we'd hoped to get it done by July, but I think that'll happen in August. And then the idea is that we have 2 projects: the Blueberry project, which is a large district scale porphyry copper exploration program or project that I wanted to see a little bit of a exploration program. But the other one is a really an exciting potentially VMS camp in BC, close to Mount Milligan, and that's called Carruthers Pass. And Carruthers Pass is it's never seen any real significant exploration. There's been some very, very high grades of base metals and precious metals found in one of the only sampling and very small drill programs they've done in the past. And it comes from a very reputable group of prospectors and project generators called the Eastfield Group. So I'm very excited to see what happens with our exploration program there. Of course, we have a standalone team that's going into Visla Copper, but shareholders will receive basically free participation in that for being shareholders of Vizsla Silver.
Yeah. How do company updates align with the overall trends that obviously you've been observing in the industry over the last 12 months?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because last summer was one of the most exciting times, and August and July, new discoveries happening. Silver price was going higher, gold price was going higher, and it was really quite an exciting time. But since basically August of last year, the markets have come off, and certainly since January of this year, really come off over the summer, and that's typical. You see that 7 out of 10 years basically in the industry. The summer is not very good in terms of liquidity and things like that. But for Vizsla, we've actually bucked that trend, and we've gone from last summer, or I should say this past winter, we've gone from about $1.25 per share to up to almost $3 a share, and right now we're sitting around 250 Canadian. So we've kind of bucked that trend a little bit, and the reason for that, I think, is those company announcements. What we've done is shown a quick, shown a steady progression from drilling the Napoleon and Tajitos area, where we're drilling a resource, our initial resource that we intend to put out in Q1 of 2022. We've been working away at that, and we've shown through our own kind of disclosure and company announcements that looks to be a very large resource in the making. Now, in addition to that, we've also shown that we've got very strong regional exploration tools that are working, like the electromagnetics and prospecting and things that we're doing that are going to generate those other centers of gravity for the company. So our strategy is to be very aggressive and thorough with our work and put those company announcements out. And even in times of bad market conditions, I suspect that the company will do well. So I think that's a good way to describe what our plan is here.
As we're into a post-pandemic world, how are economic recovery and stimulus impacting the metals industry so far? I just wonder if you can give us a few examples.
Well, I mean, coming out of the lockdowns, we saw everything basically. There's a couple things at play here. It's supply and demand, I think, and then debasement of currency. So we saw copper, we saw corn, and lumber. Lumber was the craziest of them all. And you talk to anybody who's been building a house over the last little while, and they're freaking out. But it seems to be coming back down right now. But we saw that where there was kind of supply shocks and then demand increase. I think that'll probably stabilize in the coming years here. But the real thing that I think drives the potential here for the markets is the currency debasement, essentially printing money and going into debt for the recovery. I don't think things are as rosy as potentially the central banks of the world might want to paint them. And I don't think that inflation is transitory. I think that we're going to see a kind of a higher inflation environment here shortly. And I mean, I think we're in it right now. Of course, I actually was just driving to work today, and I looked out and I saw, geez, $1.70 a liter for regular gas. It used to be $1.20, $1.30. Just keeps going up, and that's all, I think, part of this inflationary situation that we're in here. And I think that's going to be great for the metals. Of course, it's terrible. It's another form of taxation, essentially. It's terrible for the consumer, but if you're involved and invested in these metals, I think it can be positive. Of course, you're also having to look at inflation on your input costs and things like that. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, but overall, if you're just looking at metals prices, I think it's not a bad thing to have in terms of higher prices.
Yes, certainly. With silver, how much undersupply of silver is there in the market now and moving forward? I suppose at the moment, silver supply is pretty consistent. People that need it are getting it. But, and I'm not talking necessarily in terms of monetary, I'm also talking about industrial uses of the silver, because as governments plan to make the have a green economy with various plans that they have around solar, wind, electric vehicles, etc. How undersupply is the silver market compared to what we need to fulfill government's needs around the world?
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing about silver versus gold or copper or any of these other kind of broader, bigger metals, is that silver is a very tight market, and any kind of broad adjustment or kind of shocks to either the supply side or increases in demand can have a significant impact on the price. And we actually saw that in terms of supply disruption during COVID. And geez, it went from, I think it almost hit $10 an ounce at the bottom there, and almost hit 30. So that's an incredible move that happened. And one of the things that I think is going to be quite impactful on the demand side is the relative or proportional increase in demand for electric vehicles, solar panels, and photovoltaics and things like that for silver, as opposed to that impact on, let's say, other metals like copper. So the market in silver is so much smaller, and you also have another factor working in on that, which is the central bank buying or personal investment buying. So if you're taking that demand out in an increased manner, and then you add in the technical aspects of this metal, you could see a pretty significant supply deficit there in the coming years here. So I'm personally very excited about the potential for silver, and we've seen this happen before. We're in a bit of this. We're in a bit of a what would you call it here? Kind of a doldrum state here in terms of the metals, precious metals prices. But I mean, $24-$25 silver and $1,800 gold is those are great prices. I don't mind that. And but I think these prices will go up here shortly. But if you look back in history, silver's kind of due to outpace gold and go retouch those all-time highs again, and I think that'll happen. I just I don't have the crystal ball to say when.
Yeah. Obviously, with rising commodity prices, have bank analysis and strategies asking for research demand for raw materials, and insufficient supply will create new commodities super cycle. Can the industry provide enough supply? And are we on the cusp of a mining super cycle, which I believe we are?
I think so. Yeah, I think we're due for it. The big thing for me is this push towards electrification. It's just such a if you think about having to basically redo the entire electrical grid that took over 100 years or whatever it's taken to kind of put into many of these places, and think about how much metal, and think about all those big copper mines in Chile, and if we need to double that, how are we going to do that in the next 20 years without way higher incentive prices, like $10-12 copper, and alongside of that, you need nickel's going to have a higher incentive price. Like, I was just looking at, Elon Musk was kind of imploring miners to make more nickel. Obviously he wants to buy it for as cheap as possible, but it'll be beneficial for us to have these metals. By us, I mean the mining industry, to have them higher incentive prices.
Does he actually realize how long it actually takes to find some of these commodities? I mean, like copper, for instance. I think I've heard someone say at a conference I've been at, 7 to 30 years to discover a copper resource and then develop it into an asset, depending obviously how big it is. Anywhere between 7 and 30 years. So I wonder if he actually knows how long it actually does take.
Well, that's exactly it. And the other alternative to finding that is high enough incentive prices that these out of the money low grade things become worth mining, right? And so it's extremely bullish in my opinion. I don't know it's funny because when you're actually in it, and I know there's a lot of investors that probably feel this way too, that are kind of, you sit there looking at your screen every day, or it feels like it's taking forever to happen. But if you look back over the last year or two, it's been a great movement. And I think over the next decade, this will be kind of, Robert Friedland's called it the revenge of the miners. I think that's probably a good title for what we'll see here, because we're, it's not as crazy as it was, but the NFTs and the Dogecoin and kind of making money out of thin air, basically, and all cryptocurrencies and what have you. And then you'd have the guys that actually supply the metal and do all this stuff that's so important to the world economy, and all these kind of intentions, green intentions, just disproportionately undervalued. I think something has to shift and change. And my thoughts are that the trend towards a super cycle, and then, true real value being represented in these mining companies, I think is on its way.
Yeah, I hope so as well. How have the challenges been brought on by the pandemic made obviously Vizsla Silver adapt to its existing strategy to shifting from realities and being innovative? Yeah,
well, I guess it's not so much that we've had to become super innovative outside of Zoom meetings and not getting to travel to the project as much as we'd like to, from Canada, and dealing with borders and tests and all that kind of stuff, and vaccines and what have you. But the real thing is, I guess, learning how to adjust and operate in this new world, and the way that we've done that is I don't think we've really lost our momentum, and we're kind of nimble and we adapt quickly, and that's what's been really important to us. The other thing is we were just very fortunate that we had a team that Charles Funk put together, who was our VPX, and now he's our technical director. Charles put together this excellent team, and the team in Mexico deserves a huge amount of credit. I mean, enormous amount of credit for managing during the lockdown, and succeeding, and we're really working cohesively with a kind of a new environment, which was being separated from our team in Canada for a little while, and then so we had that, and then we also looked at the opportunity as that we had. We looked at the challenges of the lockdown and all those things as an opportunity, and the opportunity was to kind of reimagine how we do work and just be adaptive and nimble.
Do you think the lockdown has actually helped the company?
Well, you never know. I guess, yeah, I guess so. It's a good question, because it's possible that we would have been, if we didn't have that break last spring, we may have gone down the wrong path with discovery, and we may not have have drilled Napoleon as soon as we did. So all these things, you never know what the alternative could have been, but we look at all these things as opportunities, and so we're kind of just all luckily came together the way it did. But yeah, I think you always got to look at these challenges as a way to kind of create value.
Yeah, and turn anything into a positive. So
yeah.
So as a conclusion or summary, just wondering if you can give us an overview of the next 12 to sort of 18 months with both Vizsla Silver and Vizsla Copper.
Well, the next 12 months, so if we're sitting again a year from now and catching up again, I would say that the big thing for Vizsla is that we will put out our initial resource. We'll probably by that time have updated the resource a few times as well too, and basically looking at the economics of the large resource that we'll have there with Vizsla Silver. I'm really excited about the opportunities there. Napoleon and Tajitos will become the kind of the initial resource, and then The regional exploration, the upside that we see around the district, that'll be emphasized as well too by that point, and we'll have owned the mill, and we can be talking about production and things like that on a large scale. Now for Visla Copper, we'll be up and trading by that time. I suspect that we'll be progressed significantly with the Carruthers Pass exploration project, and we're always actively looking at a pipeline of projects, so we may actually have something more advanced there as well. And I think Vizsla Copper will kind of catch up to Vizsla Silver at some point in terms of advancement.
Yeah, well, I'll certainly be watching closely anyway. If our audience wants to reach out to you, how can they go about doing that? And if you can tell us a little bit about your social media channels.
Yeah, so we have Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube now as well too. We have an Inventa Capital YouTube channel where we talk about some of the other companies in our group as well, and so that's all YouTube and Twitter, and but then our website vislasilver.ca, you can reach us there as well, and all that contact information will be on that website.
Yeah, really appreciate your time, Michael. Hopefully it won't be another year before we chat. Hopefully we can probably catch up later towards the end of the year or beginning part of next year with obviously some further updates.
Yeah.
Audience, really appreciate you listening to this podcast. As always, appreciate your support. Hope you can share this episode amongst the mining community. So people that you work with, especially people, whether you're in Canada, whether you're in South America, whether you're in the silver industry, or just in the mining industry. Appreciate if you can keep sharing these episodes. And those that are watching on the YouTube channel, appreciate if you can like and share below, and keep liking and supporting this channel. So really appreciate all your help. Michael, again, thank you very much, and look forward to an exciting journey with both Vizsla Silver and Vizsla Copper, and until next time, happy mining.
Thank you, Rob.